Hello everyone and welcome back to Slay a Tray Thursday. This week we're making trays that have handles. Never done that, so it'll be fun. I have an idea and I'm pretty excited about it. So we'll see how it goes. I thought that I would start out with the large round tray mold and do a few layers. I'm kind of like figuring it all out in my head, but I know my first layer I want to take and make the bottom of it white. So normally we work from, like the bottom is actually the top when you demold it. But this mold has some flaws in the bottom. So instead of doing it the way we would normally do it, where the bottom is your top when you demold, I'm going to work from the bottom to the top. I hope that makes sense. There's some flaws in it, and that will keep me from having to top coat it. At least that's my plan. So I opted to use the pearlescent white mica powder, which is really pretty. And I was originally planning on just doing the sides of the mold. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, well, maybe we should just do the entire bottom, because my thought is that my bottom layer of resin is going to be a white glitter layer. But the glitter's not going to make it all that opaque, and I don't want to be able to see through it. So I decided to just do the bottom in mica powder first and then come back in with the glitter. And I am a huge proponent of using good quality glitter when you're doing any type of projects. However, this layer of glitter is really just kind of a background. You're really not, you're going to see the sparkle, but it's not a huge part of the piece and it's not in the foreground. So I didn't really want to use my expensive glitter because, let's face it, glitter is expensive. So I opted to use, I had some that I got at, Walmart, Hobby Lobby, one of those places. So I just decided to use that one in the base layer. And that way you still have that glitter, you still have the sparkle, you still have the shimmer, all of that, but it's not using up your really good, expensive quality glitter. My plan for the rest of the tray is, once this is cured, so this will take, we'll give it a day. We'll come back in tomorrow and we'll do our next layer. So in the next layer, what I want to do is I want to use dried flowers. This is like the day of firsts. I've never used dried flowers in my resin before. And so I thought, you know what, let's give it a try. So the bottom layer is going to be this really pretty white glittery layer. So you're going to kind of just see that in your background. And then there will be a clear layer on top of that I'll embed the flowers into. And I'm hoping that I won't have to put another layer like for a top coat on. We'll see. I don't know how much the flowers might stick out. So if they stick up out of the resin or if they float or anything like that, then I will obviously have to top coat it, but I am going to cross my fingers that that is not necessary. I'm also not 100% positive if I'm going to embed the handles in the resin, which I think I'm going to do that. I'm kind of going back and forth on it, but I think I'm going to embed the handles in the resin. That way they're there forever. The only thing that makes me nervous about that is what happens if they move when it's curing and then they're all off center. So then I'm kind of like, well, maybe I could epoxy them down with like some 15-minute epoxy and then pour the layer. So I don't know, more to come on that as I wrestle with that in my brain. And I'm actually doing the voiceover as this is happening. So I don't even know what it's going to look like yet, because I'm trying to stay up on top of it. So that way on Wednesday night before this is due, that I'm not rushing to finish. Okay, so this is pretty much done. So I'm going to let this set for 24 hours. And then tomorrow we'll come back and we'll try our flowers and the resin and cross our fingers for the best. So I'll see you in just a second, actually. Keeping with the theme of handles, I made handles. I sort of made handles. These are like the little cabinet pulls, little cabinet door, the little cabinet thingies that you put your paws on and open the door, or that your cat puts their paw on and opens the door. So these were originally black and I was so proud of myself. I broke out the spray paint and I spray painted them. Now, if you've ever tried to spray paint anything in Washington State in the middle of late fall, almost winter, yeah, no, that was not a good idea. No, not at all. Spray paint's not the biggest fan of the cold, and it's not the biggest fan of moisture. So since I had both of those things, yeah, it was fun. I did a lot of hair drying or a lot of blow drying with the hair dryer. That's what I meant to say. Just trying to keep them a little bit warm and then to just kind of accelerate that drying process. So if I was going to do that again, I would absolutely 1,000,000,000% use acrylic paint instead of spray paint. But hindsight 2020, and we moved on. And they're beautiful. They're perfect. So I wanted to make them a little bit more perfect. So I started looking for some stickers. I have so many different stickers. And so I found these really cute ones. They're just like a little flower. They have a really pretty like glitter outline. The only thing is these particular handles are not flat on the top. That's something else that I would change. If I was going to do it again, I would make sure they were flat. These are they have like grooves on them, right? So they come to like this little bit of a point in the center, and then it just kind of like goes down from there. So they're not perfectly flat. When I put the stickers on, they were a little bit bumpy in some places. So I just took the back of my dotting tool. It's not dotting tool, of my pokey tool, brain not functioning today. So I took the back of that and just kind of pushed it down to get all of those wrinkles out of it. And it worked pretty well. There might be like the tiniest little wrinkle, but if you don't know it's there, you're not going to see it. And because I put stickers on the top, I wanted to make sure that they were sealed in. So I decided to coat the handles in UV resin before putting them in the tray. So I just took some UV resin and then rubbed it all over the top of each of the handles, and then cured the tops for about 5 minutes. And then I did the same thing with the sides. I didn't do the bottom because I knew that the bottom was going to be embedded in the resin, so it wasn't going to matter. So I only did just the tops and then the sides, just to make sure that everything was sealed in and that it was going to be waterproof in case I ever needed to wash it. And I wrestled with how I was going to secure the handles down to the tray. I had a couple of different trains of thought, right? Thought number one was when the tray was all finished, I could glue them down to the top of the tray, or I could epoxy them down. I didn't necessarily want to do that because then I felt like they were going to stick up quite a bit off the top of the tray. So I thought that might just be too much. So I decided to go ahead and put them in this layer. My worry was, and maybe this wasn't a founded worry, I'm not sure. But my worry was that one, they could move, and I didn't want that to happen. Two, because the inside of the handle is hollow, I was worried that that might cause bubbles and that it would be drama. So what I decided to do, and I don't know if this was the right thing to do or not, because I haven't seen what it looks like yet, but I took some UV resin and I put it around the sides of the handle, and then I cured that, and then so that way it was stuck to the tray. I'm hoping that that is going to be enough to keep it in place. It should be, to keep it in place so that one, it doesn't move, but two, it doesn't release any bubbles from that inner part of the handle. So I mixed up about 12 ounces, which is way too much, but I always have other projects going on. Or at least that's what I tell myself. I make other projects for myself because I always mix up too much resin. I just wasn't exactly sure how much I was going to need, how much I wanted to put in there, because I wanted to leave enough room for a top coat. So I mixed up 12 and I ended up using about 7.5, 8. And I have never, ever used pressed flowers. I feel like I've never done this before a lot of times in Slay a Tray Thursday. And I think that's one of the awesome things about this collab is that it kind of, at least for me, it pushes me outside of my comfort zone. And they keep saying that's good for you, right? I mean, that's what they say. Somebody says that. I don't know if I agree, but somebody says it. So I took a little bit of the resin and I poured it in a separate cup. And I started out going, you know what? I'm going to dip the flowers in the resin and then I'm going to put them into the other resin just to kind of hopefully prevent bubbles. But here's what I found. I found that when you put them in the resin, in the cup, it's very difficult to keep them from wrinkling up and becoming a hot mess. So that did not last long. That lasted quite literally one flower. And so I was like, you know what? We're just going to YOLO it at this point. We're just going to YOLO it. And I also kind of forgot that I was going to put down the greenery first. And so I had to go back in and go, oh, right, the green stuff, it should go on the bottom because we're working from the bottom up instead of the opposite. So I tried to lay down the greenery and then come behind with some flowers and then put those in. The idea that I have is that I want it to be primarily like a strip, like that curves a little bit, not completely straight up and down, not across, but like it just is like a little strip that curves through like the left portion of the tray. That's the vision. Of course, things don't usually turn out that way for me, but that's what I have in mind. I spent about 20 minutes putting down the flowers and then kind of trying not to move them too much, but then, they started to move around a little bit. So I babysat it for a little bit and I'm going to cross my fingers and hope for the best. And then I'll meet you back here in about 24 hours and we will top coat and then hopefully we will be finished. We are so close to the finish line. The flowers stayed mostly where they were, which is kind of a miracle in and of itself. They moved a little bit, but not too bad. So, yay for that. I mixed up another 8 ounces. My gosh, I feel like I've mixed up so much resin for this tray. But I'm really excited. I think this looks so good. So I mixed up 8 ounces. I'm just going to top coat this. I'm going to let it set for 24 hours. And then I will come back to you and we'll take a look at the final product. I can't wait. So it is 24 hours later. The flowers are where they're supposed to be. It's top coated. Nothing went horribly awry. I feel like I've stepped into some sort of parallel universe and I don't even know what to say about that. I'm not used to things going the way I expect them to go. But check it out. I think it's so cute. I love the handles. It's actually quite heavy because I think it's like 20 something ounces of resin. So it's quite heavy for what it is. And the thing that I'm not the biggest fan of is that it's still a little bit translucent. So you can see my hand through the back of it, which, I mean, it's not a big deal. If I really am bothered by it, I can paint the back of it if I want to, but I think it's going to be fine like it is. I could also put like a piece of cork on the back too. So there are many, many options if I don't love the fact that you can still see through it a little bit. But check out those handles. Those handles are not going anywhere. They are in there forever. And I think they turned out so, so cute. And another edition of Slay a Tray Thursday is in the books. Check out the playlist in the description box below and go see all of the amazing artists who are participating in Slay a Tray this week. And don't forget to catch us in 2 weeks and we'll be doing some giving thanks. Thanks, everyone.